In November 2018, a researcher from Shenzhen uploaded a YouTube video announcing the birth of the world's first gene-edited babies, Lulu and Nana. Their DNA and the DNA of all their descendants had been permanently altered. Behind the twin girls was a forged hospital ethics stamp, a fake HIV trial, and a single email proving He Jiankui knew he was playing genetic roulette. When we gain the power to rewrite the very code of life, who gets to decide what it means to be human? 3 months before the global announcement, a confidential email reached a mentor in Stanford warning of an illegal trial. Inside a glass incubator in Shenzhen, 2 fertilized eggs were injected with a microscopic protein knife worth $30. The weapon He Jiankui brought to human embryos wasn't created in a high-tech superweapons lab. It was stolen from pond scum fighting off viruses. In June 2012, researchers Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier published a paper that turned biology on its head. They discovered that a bacterial enzyme called Cas9 could be ordered to target any single sequence of DNA inside any living cell and slice it in 2. Before 2012, changing a single letter of genetic code took months of specialized engineering and tens of thousands of dollars. CRISPR brought that cost down to $30. Suddenly, high school biology students and garage biohackers could order programmable synthetic RNA sequences online using a credit card. In Berkeley, California, scientists realized they had unlocked the control room of biological evolution. If you want to understand how fast this technology expanded, Future Explained tracks these radical exponential breakthroughs every week. By 2015, CRISPR was curing sickle cell anemia in human blood cells inside lab dishes and restoring sight to blind mice. The world's top geneticists convened in Washington, D.C. in late 2015 and issued a strict global moratorium. The rule was unambiguous. Editing somatic cells in a patient to cure disease was permitted, but altering human germline cells, embryos, sperm, or eggs was off-limits. Why? Because germline edits don't just stay with the patient. They pass down to their children, grandchildren, and every future generation until the end of time. If a stray edit introduces a catastrophic hidden mutation, that error becomes a permanent part of the human gene pool forever. Every major scientific institution signed off on the boundary. But as labs around the world began a frantic race to cure diseases, one scientist in China saw a different, more terrifying prize: a human legacy. His name was He Jiankui, a 32-year-old biophysicist educated at Rice and Stanford, armed with tens of millions in venture funding and a burning desire for immortal fame. In early 2016, He Jiankui returned to Shenzhen and set up a private genomic sequencing firm alongside his university research lab. He wasn't a doctor or a medical clinician. He had no training in human clinical trials or embryology. His degree was in biophysics. What he did possess was an obsession with Nobel laureate Robert Edwards, the pioneer who created the world's first IVF test tube baby, Louise Brown, in 1978. He kept a statue of Edwards in his office. He believed history would remember the man who created the first gene-edited human just like it remembered Edwards. In March 2017, He Jiankui quietly launched Project CCR5. The target wasn't a lethal genetic disorder like Huntington's or cystic fibrosis. He chose the CCR5 gene, a protein portal that allows the HIV virus to invade human white blood cells. A rare natural genetic mutation called CCR5 delta 32 grants complete immunity to HIV. He decided he would build that immunity into living human embryos. To do this, he needed human test subjects, but no legitimate institutional review board in China would ever clear the trial. So He Jiankui bypassed standard regulation entirely. He forged ethical approval signatures from Shenzhen Harmonicare Hospital. He Jiankui didn't just edit the genes. He forged ethical review documents and misled desperate HIV-positive parents into believing they were part of a legitimate vaccine trial, not a radical human experiment. In China, social stigma surrounding HIV is so intense that infected fathers are routinely denied access to conventional fertility treatments. He Jiankui targeted an anti-AIDS patient group called Beihualan, offering couples free IVF treatments worth over $40,000 in exchange for participating in his study. The recruitment paperwork presented to the parents was an English-language document titled AIDS Vaccine Development Project. The words gene editing or CRISPR were buried under technical laboratory jargon across 23 dense pages. You sit across from a biophysicist in a Shenzhen hotel room, holding a paper you can't read, believing you are buying your unborn baby immunity. Listen to the actual testimony of one of the fathers recruited into He Jiankui's trial.
They told us it was a new kind of vaccine for the baby, a chance to be clean. We just wanted a healthy child.
He Jiankui recruited 8 couples. 7 women underwent embryo implantation procedures using edited eggs. In early 2018, a woman known by the pseudonym Grace became pregnant with twin girls. When He Jiankui ran genomic sequencing on the developing embryos, the data showed a catastrophic error. Neither embryo had received the clean, complete CCR5 delta 32 mutation that confers HIV immunity. One twin, dubbed Lulu, had only one altered copy of the gene, leaving her completely vulnerable to HIV infection anyway. The second twin, Nana, had unpredictable off-target mutations, unintended DNA edits in genes that had nothing to do with HIV. This is genetic mosaicism, a state where different cells in the same baby carry completely different genetic blueprints. He Jiankui's former Stanford advisor, Dr. Michael Deem, explicitly warned him to stop the pregnancy immediately. He Jiankui ignored him. He authorized the final implantation into Grace, gambling the lives of unborn children to claim his historical trophy. In October 2018, Grace gave birth to Lulu and Nana in a heavily guarded private hospital room in Shenzhen. He had achieved his objective. The first gene-edited human beings were breathing on planet Earth. When investigators finally seized the lab hard drives, they realized Lulu and Nana weren't protected from HIV, their DNA was broken. Instead of waiting to publish in a peer-reviewed scientific journal, He Jiankui hired an American PR firm to orchestrate a global publicity blitz. On November 25, 2018, 3 days before the Second International Summit on Human Genome Editing in Hong Kong, he posted 5 videos to YouTube. Seated in front of a clean white backdrop wearing a dark suit, He Jiankui smiled softly and spoke to the camera in calm, practiced English. He expected global applause. He thought he would be hailed as China's scientific savior. Instead, the reaction was immediate, overwhelming horror. Within 24 hours, over 120 top Chinese scientists signed an open letter calling his experiment monstrous and madness. On November 28, 2018, He Jiankui walked onto the stage at the Grand Hall of Hong Kong University. 500 international reporters, geneticists, and ethicists sat in heavy, suffocating silence as he adjusted his briefcase. For 50 minutes, distinguished Nobel laureates grilled him on his methodology, his data, and his total lack of ethical controls. Standing on stage at a Hong Kong genetics summit, facing a global firestorm of condemnation, He Jiankui simply stated he was proud of his work.
When asked if he would edit his own unborn children, He Jiankui didn't hesitate. If it were my child, under the same circumstance, I would try first.
That evening, He Jiankui was rushed out of the auditorium under armed security guard protection. He vanished from public view for weeks. He was placed under house arrest inside a university guest house in Shenzhen, guarded by state security officers. The reckoning came swift and relentless. In December 2019, the Nanshan District People's Court of Shenzhen handed down its secret verdict. The Chinese government sentenced he to 3 years in prison, not for unethical science, but for illegal medical practice. While the twin girls vanished from public view, their altered genetic code now a permanent, heritable part of the human story. 2 lab assistants received suspended prison sentences and heavy financial penalties. In October 2020, Jennifer Doudna and Emmanuel Charpentier were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering CRISPR-Cas9. The Nobel Committee explicitly noted that the tool had revolutionary medical power when kept within rigorous ethical boundaries. In April 2022, He Jiankui walked out of a Chinese prison after serving his full 3-year sentence. He was 37 years old. Within months of his release, he set up a brand new research laboratory in Beijing. He launched a campaign on Twitter and WeChat seeking funding to cure Duchenne muscular dystrophy using gene editing. In February 2023, The government of Hong Kong revoked a top talent immigration visa, granted to He Jiankui just hours after granting it. He remains banned from working in clinical medicine, but the biological genie cannot be stuffed back into the bottle. What happened to Lulu and Nana? They are living today somewhere in China under strict state medical surveillance, along with a third gene-edited child born in mid-2019. Their true identities, their health records, and the precise state of their altered DNA remain classified state secrets. When those children have children of their own, the synthetic DNA edits introduced in a Shenzhen lab in 2018 will spread into human civilization. Human evolution wasn't rewritten by an international council. It was altered forever in a rogue lab for $3 million. The technology to edit life now costs less than an iPhone. DIY CRISPR kits sit on garage workbenches across 6 continents. If one biophysicist could alter human germline DNA in secret in 2018, who else is doing it right now in a lab you've never heard of? We found the scissors to edit life, but did we ever write the instruction manual? Is a world without disease worth a world where we design our children? Humanity has held the code of life for 3 billion years. In one afternoon, we unlocked it. You are living in the 1st century where biological nature is a software choice. We now know who decides what it means to be human, the first person with enough ambition, funding, and secrecy to actually do it. He Jiankui uploaded that video to YouTube, believing he was lighting a beacon for humanity. He copied a playbook written 40 years earlier by Robert Edwards, a man who defied the establishment and won a Nobel Prize. But He Jiankui's legacy won't be a Nobel. It will be the silent genetic mark carried in the blood of 3 living children. If you want to understand how radical new technologies are quietly reshaping the next century before anyone notices, hit subscribe to Future Explained right now.